Your body is already fighting cancer right now, and you're shutting that defense down every single night without even realizing it. Not with something extreme, but with a habit so normal you'd never suspect it's slowly letting damaged cells slip through. The question is, how long has your body been losing this fight without you noticing? If you're serious about taking better care of your health, make sure you subscribe. I share simple, practical advice designed especially for seniors. And feel free to leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I always read them and appreciate every one of you. Let's get back to it. Let me ask you something. Not a trick question, not a scare tactic, a real question. One I wish more doctors asked their patients before it was too late. What if the reason cancer becomes more dangerous after 50 has nothing to do with bad luck? What if it has nothing to do with your genes, your diet, or anything you failed to catch in time? What if the real reason is something your body stopped doing? Because here's what I've spent years watching in clinical practice, and what nobody seems to be talking about loudly enough. Your body is not defenseless against cancer. It never was. Right now, at this very moment, there are biological systems inside you identifying damaged cells, correcting errors before they multiply, and eliminating threats you'll never even feel. This isn't wishful thinking. This is documented, peer-reviewed biology. Your body was built for this. But after 50, something changes. Not overnight, not dramatically, not in a way that shows up on any standard test your doctor orders at your annual visit. It happens quietly, gradually, in the background of your completely normal, completely ordinary daily routine. And the most alarming part? The thing disrupting this protective system isn't a virus. It isn't a toxin. It isn't even stress, though that doesn't help. It's a habit, one you repeat every single day without questioning it, one that feels completely harmless, one that, on the surface, looks like you're doing fine. But underneath, it is slowly narrowing the window your body has to repair itself. And when that repair window shrinks long enough, damage that should have been corrected isn't. Cells that should have been eliminated aren't. And that's when the risk starts climbing. I'm Dr. James Cross, and I've sat across from too many patients, people who exercised, who watched what they ate, who showed up to every appointment, and still received news that shook them to their core. For a long time, I asked myself what I was missing, what they were missing, and eventually, the answer stopped pointing at what they were doing wrong and started pointing at what their body had quietly stopped doing right. That's what this is about. Not fear, not doom, but the truth, the biological, scientific, deeply practical truth about what your body is capable of protecting you from when you stop accidentally interrupting it. Here's something your biology textbook never made exciting enough. Right now, while you're sitting, breathing, going about your day, your body is at war, not with the world outside, with itself. And I mean that in the best possible way. Every single day, your cells divide, billions of times, constantly, relentlessly, without pause. And every time a cell divides, there's a chance for error, a miscopied strand of DNA, a damaged protein, a signal that fires wrong. Scientists estimate that each cell in your body sustains tens of thousands of DNA damage events every single day. Let that number sit with you for a moment. Tens of thousands, per cell, per day. Now, if that sounds terrifying, here's the part that should actually impress you. Your body has an answer for almost every single one of them. You have DNA repair enzymes that function like microscopic editors, scanning your genetic code, spotting errors, and correcting them before they become permanent. You have a process called apoptosis, essentially a built-in self-destruct mechanism that triggers when a cell is too damaged to fix. It doesn't argue, it doesn't hesitate, it simply eliminates the problem before it spreads. And then there's your immune surveillance system, a network of natural killer cells that patrol your body around the clock, hunting for anything that looks abnormal, anything that's behaving like it shouldn't. This system is extraordinary. It is precise. It is relentless. It is, in every sense of the word, your first line of defense against cancer. And for most of your life, it worked. Every day, without your awareness, without your effort, without a single prescription, your body identified threats, neutralized them, and moved on. You never felt it happening. You never had to. But here's the part of this story that changes everything. This system, brilliant as it is not invincible. It has conditions. It requires resources. It requires timing. It requires something most people over 50 are unknowingly denying it every single night. Because damage isn't the enemy. Unrepaired damage is. A cell that gets damaged and corrected, no problem. A cell that gets damaged and missed, that's where the story gets dangerous. And the older you get, the more your body needs everything working in perfect coordination to keep up with the daily load. Take one piece away, disrupt one part of that system, and the errors start slipping through. Not many at first, but enough. And over time, enough becomes a lot. That's the invisible war. And right now, without realizing it, millions of people over 50 are losing it. Not because they're sick, not because they're careless, but because of what we're going to talk about next. So now you understand the system. You understand that your body is constantly under siege and constantly fighting back. You understand that damage isn't the real threat. Unrepaired damage is. But here's the question that changes everything. What happens when the system that does all that repairing starts slowing down? Not stopping, not failing completely, just slowing. Because that's exactly what happens after 50. And it doesn't happen because you did something wrong. It doesn't happen because you missed a supplement, or skipped too many workouts, or ate the wrong things for too many years. It happens because of time. Because aging, real biological aging, isn't just about gray hair and slower recovery from a long weekend. It's about what's changing at the cellular level, deep inside every system your body depends on to protect you. Here's what the research actually shows. As you age, your DNA repair enzymes become less efficient. They're still working, but they're working slower, missing more, catching less. Your natural killer cells, those immune soldiers patrolling for abnormal cells, become less aggressive, less responsive, less precise. Your telomeres, the protective caps at the end of your chromosomes, shorten with every cell division. And as they shorten, your cells become more vulnerable to errors that don't get corrected. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology found that DNA repair capacity measurably declines with age, meaning the same level of daily cellular damage that your body handled with ease at 35 becomes significantly harder to manage at 55. Think about what that means practically. At 35, your body catches 1,000 errors and corrects 998 of them. At 55, it catches the same 1,000 errors, but now it's only correcting 970. That gap seems small, but it isn't. Because those uncorrected errors don't disappear. They accumulate, quietly, persistently, year after year. Until the accumulation reaches a tipping point, your body can no longer manage alone. Now here's where most people make a critical mistake in thinking about this. They assume this decline is fixed, inevitable, locked in, nothing to be done. So they accept it, and they stop asking whether any of it is within their control. But that assumption is wrong, and it's dangerously wrong. Because yes, some biological slowing is a natural part of aging. But research increasingly shows that the rate of that decline, how fast your repair systems weaken, how quickly your immune surveillance fades, is not purely determined by your age. It's heavily influenced by something else entirely, something behavioral, something daily, something that happens or fails to happen every single night while you sleep. And this is the part that stopped me in my tracks when I first started connecting the dots across my patients. Because I wasn't looking at what they were eating. I wasn't looking at their exercise habits. I wasn't looking at their family history. I was looking at something far simpler, something so ordinary that I had almost overlooked it entirely. A pattern in the way they lived their evenings. A habit so deeply embedded in modern life that questioning it feels almost absurd, until you see what it's doing to the one system your body depends on most after 50. That's exactly where we're going next. And I promise you, once you see it, you will never look at your nightly routine the same way again. Right now, someone who needed to hear this already clicked away. Don't be that person. Subscribe before you go any further, because what's coming next is the piece of this puzzle that most people spend decades missing, and you're already this close to having the full picture. So let's talk about that habit, the one hiding in plain sight, the one so woven into your daily routine that calling it dangerous almost sounds dramatic. Almost. Because I know what you're expecting me to say. You're waiting for me to point at sugar, or processed food, or sitting too long, or not drinking enough water. And look, those things matter. I won't pretend otherwise. But none of them are what I'm talking about. Because when I started tracing back the timeline in patient after patient, looking for the common thread, the shared variable, the thing that quietly separated the people whose bodies were keeping up from the ones whose bodies were falling behind, it wasn't on their plate. It wasn't in their gym routine. It was in their nights. Specifically, in the timing of their nights. Here's what I mean. Your body runs on a clock, not a metaphorical clock, a literal, biological, molecular clock, embedded in nearly every cell in your body. Scientists call it your circadian rhythm, and it governs far more than just when you feel sleepy. It controls when your hormones release, when your immune cells are most active, when your metabolism shifts gears, when your DNA repair enzymes are most effective. Your body doesn't run all its systems at full power all the time. That would be unsustainable. Instead, it schedules them. Repair happens at certain hours. Immune activity peaks at certain hours. Cellular cleanup runs at certain hours. It is, in every sense, a biological timetable. And your body depends on you to honor it. Now here's where it gets critical. In 2017, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded specifically for research on circadian rhythm mechanisms, not sleep duration, not sleep quality, the clock itself, and what happens when it gets disrupted. Because when your internal clock is thrown off, even slightly, even gradually, the entire schedule breaks down. Repair processes that should run at 1 a.m. get delayed. Immune activity that should peak at 3 a.m. gets suppressed. Cellular cleanup that should finish before dawn gets cut short, and your body never quite catches up. Day after day, night after night, the schedule slips, the repairs get missed. The errors accumulate, and what disrupts this clock more than almost anything else? Not a disease, not a deficiency, inconsistency. Going to sleep at midnight one night, 2 a.m. the next, back to 11 p.m. the night after. Your body doesn't know which schedule to follow, so it follows none of them properly. And the repair window, that critical nightly window your cells depend on, keeps getting missed. This isn't theory. This is biology with a Nobel Prize attached to it. And yet, almost nobody over 50 is talking about it. Almost nobody is connecting this invisible disruption to the rising cancer risk that comes with age. Until now. Because what comes next is the part that will make all of this make sense. The specific window your body opens every night. The one most people are accidentally slamming shut, and what it costs them when they do. So your body has a schedule. A precise, biological, non-negotiable schedule. And somewhere inside that schedule, tucked into the quiet hours of the night, there is a window. A window most people over 50 don't even know exists, and almost certainly aren't protecting. Let me show you exactly what happens inside your body when that window opens correctly. It begins the moment you fall into deep sleep, not light sleep, not the half-conscious drifting you do while the television runs in the background. Deep sleep, the kind your body has to earn through a consistent, properly timed sleep cycle. And the moment you get there, something remarkable starts happening. Your pituitary gland releases a surge of human growth hormone. Now, most people associate growth hormone with children getting taller or athletes trying to perform better. But after 50, growth hormone serves a completely different and far more critical purpose. It signals your body to shift into full repair mode. Damaged tissues get rebuilt, cellular waste gets cleared, and critically, your DNA repair enzymes become significantly more active. This is the window. This is when your body does its most important work. But that's not all that happens. Your pineal gland, a tiny structure deep in your brain, begins releasing melatonin. And here's what most people don't know about melatonin. Yes, it helps you feel sleepy. But its role goes far deeper than that. Research published in Cancer Letters found that melatonin doesn't just regulate sleep. It actively participates in cellular repair, acts as a powerful antioxidant, and plays a direct role in suppressing the conditions that allow abnormal cells to survive and multiply. In other words, melatonin isn't just a sleep hormone. It is part of your cancer defense system, and it only releases properly when your circadian clock is running on schedule. Disrupt the clock, and melatonin production drops. repair slows, defense weakens. The window closes before the work is done. There's more. During this same nightly window, your immune system undergoes what researchers describe as a period of heightened surveillance. Your natural killer cells, those relentless hunters we talked about earlier, become more active during specific sleep phases. They move faster. They identify threats more accurately. They eliminate abnormal cells more efficiently. This is your body at its most defensive, its most precise, its most powerful. And it happens every single night, but only if the window opens fully. Only if your biological clock is aligned closely enough to trigger the cascade of hormones, enzymes, and immune activity in the right sequence at the right time. Now think about what happens when that window keeps getting interrupted. When your sleep schedule shifts by 2 hours one night, 3 hours the next. When late nights become routine. When your body never quite settles into a consistent rhythm. The growth hormone surge gets blunted. The melatonin release gets suppressed. The immune surveillance gets cut short. And your DNA repair enzymes, those molecular editors that are supposed to be working their hardest during these hours, clock out before the job is finished. Night after night, week after week, year after year, the damage that should have been corrected quietly piles up. Not dramatically, not in a way you feel, but persistently, in the background of a life that looks completely normal from the outside. And the habit responsible for all of it? It isn't complicated. It isn't obscure. It is something happening in living rooms and bedrooms across the world every single night, completely unchallenged, completely unquestioned. And in the next chapter, we're going to name it directly. We're going to look at exactly how modern life accidentally became the enemy of your body's most important nightly process, and why, after 50, the cost of ignoring it is higher than most people ever realize. So now you know about the window, that critical nightly repair cycle your body depends on, the growth hormone surge, the melatonin release, the immune surveillance peak, all of it running on a precise biological schedule that took millions of years to perfect. And now the obvious question, what's interrupting it? Because something is. For millions of people over 50, something is breaking into that window every single night and quietly dismantling the process before it can finish. And the answer is so ordinary it almost feels insulting. It starts with light. Specifically, the light coming from your phone, your tablet, your television, your laptop. The blue wavelength light these screens emit doesn't just illuminate a room. It sends a direct signal to your brain. A signal that says, it's still daytime. And your brain, which has been wired for hundreds of thousands of years to use light as its primary clock signal, believes it. So it holds back the melatonin. It delays the hormonal cascade. It tells your repair systems, not yet. A study from Harvard Medical School found that evening blue light exposure suppresses melatonin for nearly twice as long as other light wavelengths, pushing back your body's entire repair schedule by hours. Not minutes, hours. But screens are only part of the problem. The deeper issue, the one that compounds everything else, is inconsistency. Going to bed at 10 p.m. on Monday, midnight on Wednesday, 1 a.m. on Friday, then trying to reset over the weekend. This pattern has a name in research circles. It's called social jet lag, and it does to your circadian rhythm exactly what crossing multiple time zones does to a traveler. Except you're doing it to yourself every single week without ever leaving your home. Your body's internal clock doesn't reset easily. It's not a light switch. It's a finely tuned biological mechanism that depends on consistency to know when to trigger each phase of its nightly repair sequence. Shift that schedule by even 90 minutes regularly, and the sequencing breaks down. The repair window opens late, runs short, or never fully opens at all. And the consequences of that, accumulated over months and years after 50, are not small. The World Health Organization classified night shift work as a probable carcinogen, not because of what shift workers are exposed to at work, but because of what chronic circadian disruption does to the body's internal repair and surveillance systems. Let that land. An organization that evaluates cancer risk worldwide looked at circadian disruption and called it a probable cause of cancer, not a risk factor, a probable cause. And yet most people over 50 are voluntarily disrupting their own circadian rhythm every single night. Not because they're reckless, not because they don't care about their health, but because nobody ever connected these dots for them clearly enough. Until now. Because the solution to all of this, the actual, practical, surprisingly simple fix, is exactly what we're covering next. So after everything we've covered, the invisible war inside your body, the repair system slowing down after 50, the biological clock your life depends on, the nightly window that modern habits keep slamming shut, you might be expecting the solution to match the scale of the problem. Something complex, something expensive, something that requires a complete overhaul of the life you've built. But here's what I've learned after years of watching patients struggle, recover, and transform. The most powerful interventions are almost never the most complicated ones, and this one is no exception. The habit that changes everything is this: go to sleep at the same time every single night. That's it. Not a supplement stack, not a restrictive diet protocol, not an expensive device or a complicated bedtime ritual. Just consistency, same window, every night, as close as you can manage. Because what consistency does to your circadian rhythm is nothing short of biological transformation. When your body knows, truly knows, at a cellular level, when sleep is coming, it starts preparing. Melatonin begins releasing earlier and more fully. Growth hormone primes for its nightly surge. DNA repair enzymes queue up for their most active phase. Immune surveillance shifts into its highest gear. Everything your body needs to run its nightly repair cycle lines up, because you gave it the one thing it needed most: a reliable signal. Research published in the Sleep Journal found that consistent sleep timing, independent of total sleep duration, was linked to lower levels of inflammatory markers, better metabolic regulation, and improved immune function. Not just better rest, better biology. Because your body isn't just recovering when you sleep consistently, it's optimizing. It's running the full repair sequence, start to finish, the way it was designed to. And over time, that optimization compounds. Every night of consistent sleep is another night of complete repair, another night of proper immune surveillance, another night of melatonin doing its full job, and another night of your body staying ahead of the damage instead of falling behind it. Now, I want to be clear about something important. This isn't about perfection. Life happens, schedules shift. Some nights won't cooperate. But the goal isn't a flawless record. The goal is a reliable pattern. Because your circadian clock responds to patterns, not to individual nights. Anchor your sleep to a consistent window most nights of the week, and your biology will follow. It doesn't take months to feel the difference. Most people notice improved energy, sharper mornings, and better mood within the first 2 weeks. But the deeper changes, the cellular repair, the immune recalibration, the reduction in internal conditions that allow disease to develop, those build quietly, persistently, exactly the way the damage built, just in the opposite direction. And that brings us to the final and most important conversation of all. Because this was never really just about sleep. It was about something bigger, something that every person over 50 deserves to understand about their body, and about what is still completely within their control. Let me leave you with something important. Not a statistic, not a warning, not another fact to file away and forget. Something more personal than that. Over the years, I've had conversations with patients that stay with me long after they leave my office. And the ones that stay with me longest aren't the complicated cases. They're the simple ones. The ones where a person sat across from me, frustrated, scared, feeling completely at the mercy of their own biology, and said some version of the same thing. I didn't think any of this was in my hands. And that moment, that specific belief, is what I want to address directly before we close. Because it's the most dangerous idea in medicine. Not because it's malicious, but because it's wrong. Cancer is not purely random. Yes, some factors are outside your control. Genetics exist. Environmental exposures exist. Uncertainty exists. I won't pretend otherwise. But the internal conditions that allow cancer to develop and progress, the accumulated errors, the failed repairs, the weakened surveillance, those are not fixed. They are influenced, every single day, by the choices that seem too small to matter, by the habits that don't feel medical enough to take seriously, by the nightly routine that nobody ever told you was connected to any of this. Your body hasn't given up on you. That's what I need you to hear. Not as encouragement, not as comfort, as biology. Even after 50, even after years of disrupted sleep, irregular schedules, and unknowingly interrupted repair cycles, your body is still trying. Every night, it looks for the signal, the consistent, reliable signal that tells it, now, repair now, the window is open. And every night you give it that signal, something changes. Not dramatically, not overnight, but at the cellular level, quietly and persistently, your repair systems recalibrate. Your melatonin production strengthens. Your immune surveillance sharpens. Your body starts catching more of what it was missing. The gap between damage and repair begins to close. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Because health after 50 was never about achieving perfection. It was never about eliminating every risk or controlling every variable. It was about giving your body enough consistency, enough alignment, enough of the right conditions to do what it was always designed to do, protect you. So tonight, not next week, not when things settle down, not when the timing feels more convenient. Tonight, pick a sleep window and honor it. Not because it's easy, but because your body has been waiting for you to do exactly that. And it is never too late to start. Thanks for watching all the way through. Staying informed is key to living a healthier, longer life. If you want more simple, practical health advice, make sure you subscribe and tap the next video on your screen. And before you go, leave a comment and rate this from 1 to 10. Your feedback helps me create better guidance for you.